In this video, we're going to look at 5 ways that you can bring smart technology to your garden lighting using these products from the Smart Plus range by LEDVANCE. Smart lighting technology is an area that's really blowing up in the electrical industry at the moment, and as it's quite a technical subject, it's easy to get bogged down in the control and technical element of it all, and forget that electric lighting is not just all about how it works. There's an important element of look and effect involved as well. So a good lighting design that incorporates smart technology needs to be that perfect blend of function and form. Now, it's worth mentioning here that LEDVANCE have a number of different systems in their smart lighting range that operate on either Bluetooth, Wi-Fi or Zigbee. The products in this video are all from the Wi-Fi range. So let's have a look at some of these products and see how they can be applied in order to look good and work smart. Number 1, take advantage of existing supplies. Landscape lighting is kind of habit forming. Once you've installed a bit, suddenly you find yourself wanting more and more, and you want to be able to layer that lighting to give you different effects. Now, tapping off existing lighting supplies in the garden isn't problematic in itself, but if you want to change what's on at different times for scene setting, this can get a little bit tricky. We've got a classic example here. We've got these solar powered spike fittings along the front of this raised area here, but they aren't very reliable and there's zero control over whether they come on as they rely on photocells to do so. Now, there's a pre-existing supply to this area feeding some other lighting and electrical items, but it's fed off a spur on the inside of the building, so it's an all on or all off job. So I've decided to install these Smart Plus garden poles from LEDVANCE to create a similar accented effect as the old solar lights, but with the major advantage that we've got control via the Smart Plus app. Now, these fittings come in 2 physical sizes. You've got the standard size and then the smaller version. The base unit comes with 5 fittings pre-wired together at 500mm intervals, and there's an extension option to take you up to a maximum of 8 fittings. And to cover the length of this lawn edging, I need 2 lots of 8 fittings. Now, there's 2 supplies at either end of this retaining wall here, one of which is behind this accessible decking panel. So if we get that off, we can access at this end. And then we've got another supply under these rather nifty hinge steps at this end, so we can access the supply down there as well. So now it's just a matter of pushing them into the gravel and then connecting them up at either end, and you're away. And now we connect them to the LEDVANCE Smart Plus Wi-Fi app on my phone, and voila, we've got power from an existing circuit and control via the app. This opens up a whole world of options such as dimming and even colour changing as well. There's also some really other cool functions that we'll look at a little bit later in the video. Number 2, take back control. Now I've installed a couple of fittings and had a first glimpse at the app, it seems like a good opportunity to address one thing that can make or break a smart system in my eyes, and that is the way that we manually control the lighting. Now, it's great to have the app. We'll set up timers, we'll create scenes and use the other functions as well, and we can add control from more than one device, which is really handy. But sometimes you just want to be able to turn the fittings on and off from one spot. And this is where a lot of smart systems don't quite measure up, because any manual control is all via the app. Now, this fact has actually prevented me from installing certain smart systems in the past. Fortunately, LEDVANCE have thought about this and provided a remote control that anyone in the household can use to turn the connected lights on and off quickly and simply if, say, their phone isn't charged or it's in use. Smart sometimes just needs to be simple, and for me, this elevates the Smart Plus range as a viable option. Number 3, use colour change wisely. So the next product that we're looking at are these spots that have the option of installing a spike onto the base of them in order to be inserted into the ground. So I'm going to be using them to illuminate this tree behind me here. I'm going to place them in the ground with one of them quite close to the trunk to send light up the trunk of the tree itself, and then use the others a little bit further away to try and illuminate the foliage. Now, these have the advantage of being colour changing, much like the pole lights that we looked at earlier. Now, when you look at colour changing, it's very easy for it to get a bit out of control and make your garden start to look like a nightclub. Now, if that's the effect you're aiming for, then that's great. But I'd advise you to think about why you want to colour change. These spots are great because, as well as colour changing, they also have a 3000 Kelvin warm white light function, which is great for general illumination. However, the colour change can be used to create different atmospheres as well as change according to the seasons. In spring you can use a burst of colour to complement the blossom on the trees here. This blossom is kind of a pinky white colour, so we can imitate that effect. And bear in mind, the colour you use doesn't have to be on the vibrant end of the spectrum. You can bring it in a bit to create subtler pastel shades. Then, at the height of summer, you can make the colour more green, and in autumn start complementing the changing colour of the leaves with the changing colour of your light, introducing perhaps more orangey tones to the palette. So there we go. The wise use of colour can really add depth to the lighting scheme. Number 4, make smart secure. Let's come back from the dizzy heights of form that we've just been looking at and consider some function now. This is a floodlight that's designed to be mounted on a property as a security device. However, the security it offers goes further than simply scaring intruders away with a burst of light and actually incorporates a security camera, which could seriously help to improve the security of your property. It's got the usual adjustable settings for a floodlight, as well as the option to record footage when the sensor is triggered. It can record this to an SD card or to cloud storage, and you'll receive a notification on your phone when the sensor is triggered. This can be deactivated if you'd rather. It also features the option to trigger a siren when movement is detected, and can also be used as an intercom to allow you to have a friendly chat with any potential intruders before you decide to release the hounds. And of course, it can all be controlled via the app, including accessing the camera and intercom. This fitting for me really sums up the potential to be found in smart systems. It goes beyond just wireless switching and starts to really bring simplicity to what may previously have been a daunting area of installation work, allowing electricians to harness the power of smart. Number 5, explore your options. Speaking of harnessing the power of smart, don't be afraid to dig deeper into the menus in the app and see how they can be used. I'm going to give you one example here. This area in front of the driveway gets really dark and the streetlights are miles away. Now, if you reverse onto the drive, it's almost impossible to see what's going on behind you at night. So I've decided to install this pole cube fitting at the edge of the driveway here to cast some light onto the drive. Now, there is a taller version of this fitting available, but I quite like this low one because it means that as I'm reversing, I'll be able to see by the light that it casts without the source being too bright in the rear view mirror. Now, obviously it's going to be a nuisance to turn it on via the app every time I rock up at home in the dark, so I'm going to use that clever option that I referred to earlier. You'll find it in the routines menu here at the bottom of the screen, and then go to automation and add automation. Then we need to add a condition. Now, the condition that I'm interested in is when location changes, because I want the light to come on when I get home. So tapping that will give us the option to leave or arrive. So I'm going to select arrive, and then it allows me to use this map to decide where the condition will be triggered. I can zoom in and out to change the radius that the effect will take place in. Zooming right in will trigger the condition when I arrive within 100 meters of home. Perfect for the light coming on as I enter the area where I live. Then I select what I want that condition to trigger. In this case, it's run the device. Pressing that allows me to select the pole cube fitting, and then I can decide exactly what I want it to do. So I want it to turn on with a white light at full brightness, although I could dim that down if I want, or even perhaps select a colour, intensity and brightness for it to be instead. It might be worth tweaking that to create a nice romantic red on the occasions when me and Mrs. R are returning from date night. We'll stick with the white for now. Now, obviously, I don't want this happening if I come home during daylight or being on all the time that I'm at home. So there's a couple of ways that we can avoid this happening. The easiest way is to change the effective period of the routine at the bottom of the screen here, where we'll change it to night. Now, it may ask us to select the area that we're in as well, so that it knows when sunset is. We can even give this routine a name if we want. We'll say, honey, I'm home. And then we'll press the tick at the top of the screen and we're good to go. All that's left now is to give it a test. Okay, so I've left the camera running on the driveway and I've driven a little way away from home. And what should happen now is that as I approach the house, the pole cube fitting should illuminate. So I'm coming to the area where I set that boundary previously. So hopefully sometime around now, that fitting is turning on. And then as I come round the bottom of where I live here and approach the house, it's a bit windy, but as I get to the house now, hopefully what should happen is that light should be on, and it should be in a position to help me reverse onto the driveway. I've got a camera in the back recording what's going on behind us, so let's have a look. And yes, it's on, and look at that. That is so much better than it used to be. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking that up, but that is making life so much easier with that light just being reflected round and pulled on the ground and helping me find my way back, and giving me something just to guide me, which is fantastic. So there we go, nice and easy. We're on the driveway. Just a couple of tweaks to a couple of simple settings once you know what you're doing, and there you go, we've got geolocation working properly. So there we go, we've seen 5 ways that Smart can ease the installation of landscape lighting and improve the customer's ongoing experience. We think this system is really easy to use and has some unique features and also fittings that are a little more innovative and different. And to be honest, we've barely scratched the surface of the LEDVANCE Smart Plus range in terms of its functionality and also the available devices and fittings. But as always, we want to hear from you. Have you dipped your toe in the water of smart lighting yet? And is the LEDVANCE range likely to prompt you to do so? Please leave your thoughts and questions in the comments section below. And as always, thank you very much for watching.